Welcome to this latest edition of the Real Deal podcast on this 20th of October 2020. I'm your host, Cyril Gerald-Quinn, here on a Tuesday evening discussing the world of sports. Hope everybody out there is doing well, enjoying some of this beautiful weather, depending on where you're at, of course. But where I'm at, the weather has been great. A few things to discuss over here on this Tuesday. Of course, the NFL week wrapped up yesterday. You had two games on a Monday night with the Cowboys actually getting just embarrassed by the Arizona Cardinals, and of course the Kansas City Chiefs rebounding from a loss last week to Las Vegas Raiders. Very good win for Kansas City, 26-17 over the Buffalo Bills, who have now all of a sudden lost three straight games. You know, you look at the NFL right now. Uh, you know, there's really not a dominant team right now, and you got to be careful of how you gauge where the season is at. Like, no training camp. Um, what's going on, of course, with COVID? Some of these teams are just not. You got some of these teams with these gaudy records, who frankly just are not that good. I don't think Cleveland starting to show some warts. They were embarrassed by Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh right now, you can arguably say, along with Tennessee, I still think Kansas City pound for pound is the best team in the AFC, and probably the best team in the NFL pound for pound. But Pittsburgh certainly is right there. Tennessee just keeps just keeps winning. Um, but keep in mind that they were in the championship game yesterday. This past season, last season. But a lot of these teams, it's going to take a while for the NFL season to get a real feel of this season, because I think you're not going to really see how good a lot of these teams are until, say, week 7, 8, you know, November, mid-November. I would venture to say even uh, to go going into Thanksgiving. To be honest with you, now of course, NFL teams don't have that long. Don't have if you're a team, you gotta put pedal to the metal now. The NFL is only 16 games in the regular season, but I don't get a sense that you're gonna really feel like who they're gonna find out who's who outside of reputation. Like what Kansas City is gonna be. They're gonna be right there at the end. This is a good Pittsburgh team. A good Pittsburgh team always is dangerous. They got the best defense in the league, or one of the best defenses in the league. And Ben Roethlisberger is back, so you know what they're all about. NFC is a little bit more cloudy with the NFC. Um, we saw this. This past Sunday. I thought Green Bay was very good coming into this weekend. Coming into Sunday's game, I thought Green Bay, if you had a power rankings, which I don't get into that too much because of how long the NFL season is, and as we all know, this is not college football. But if you had Green Bay number one and number two in your power rankings, okay. But they got embarrassed on Sunday, and it's not just one thing to lose. I mean, you can lose a road game to Tampa. Tampa's a very good team. It was physically, Green Bay got punked, and we saw them get punked last year twice by San Francisco. Once in the regular season, of course, in that championship game, and this was very much similar to what happened in that San Francisco game. Maybe not Tampa Bay running all over them, even though the running back had over 100 yards, but just the physicality that Tampa imposed on Green Bay. It showed it really. I did not like what I saw out of Green Bay, and just not so much losing the game, but just getting physically pushed around. I mean, they got whipped at the line of scrimmage, and on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Now, if you're somebody who roots for Green Bay, you can say, hold on, they were up 10-0. They were up 10-0. Aaron Rodgers throws the pick six. The game completely changed. No problem with that. You're absolutely right. That one play changed the whole complexity of that game, without question. And it just and by the way, Rodgers, that was one of Rodgers, that was the worst game I've ever seen Aaron Rodgers play, by far. I've never seen Rodgers play that bad. Not completing 50% of his passes, throwing no touchdowns and two picks and one for a pick six. I've never seen him play worse. He was missing receivers. He missed Mercedes Lewis within what should have been, what would have been a touchdown probably, wide open by at least. Mercedes Lewis was good 5 to 10 yards past the safety or corner or past the safety, wide open. And Rodgers this year in 2020 has not missed passes like that. Now again, we gauge Green Bay at a different level. The Green Bay will be in the playoffs. We know they're a playoff team, but this is just you're late in Rodgers' career, um, and we thought throughout the first 4 games that Green Bay possibly was a Super Bowl contender. I'm not saying that they're not a Super Bowl contender, but they took a step back, a major step back to me in that game. That game, that performance was not did not that performance was one that you will kind of tuck away and remember in the postseason if those two teams meet again, or if Green Bay runs into another physical team that can push them around at the line of scrimmage. Uh, the flip side, of course, is Tampa Bay. If Tampa Bay's defense continues to play at the level they played at during that game and throughout the course of the season, they are the number one. They are number one in terms of yards allowed. They're number one defense in the league, and they played like a top three defense in the league this year. They will be right there. Brady does not have to set the world on fire, and he's played well for the most part. Outside the New Orleans game, Brady's played pretty. Brady's played. He's been well. He's played well. He's playing great for a 43-year-old. I mean, the guy that met the idea that this man's 43 years old playing starting at the quarterback position is just this is remarkable, to say the least. But he's played relatively well. Um, and really, Tampa Bay doesn't have any bad losses. I mean, Tampa Bay loses to Chicago. That Chicago at Chicago, a game that they without question should have won. They played a sloppy football game with the penalties. Brady had a couple picks in that game. Brady didn't particularly play great in that game, and Chicago has a very good defense. And New Orleans on the road for first game of the season. First game of the seasons, I toss them out always in the NFL. First game of seasons to me mean next to nothing as far as knowing who's going to be good and who's not. So give Tampa Bay a lot of credit. That was the statement game of the week without question. Everybody hyped this game up to be, you know, battle of two immortal quarterbacks, two Hall of Fame quarterbacks, two all-time greats, which they are. I don't know if you, I mean, you can't. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is immortal, iconic quarterback. Listen, he's all-time great. Brady, we know a lot of people think is the goat. He's not my goat, but he's at worst the second greatest quarterback of all time behind Joe Montana, and many people would put Brady as the greatest quarterback of all time. Whatever. He's the top. He's one of the top. He's one of the best ever. But that game was not about Tom Brady. That game, or Rob Gronkowski for that matter. That game was about the Tampa Bay defense, and that game was about the physicality that team plays with. That should travel in the playoffs in cold weather cities if they don't get a home field advantage. So that defense, that physical style of play, the running game should, and we know Tom Brady can play in cold weather. So regardless of if they get home field or not, So that was a big time win for them over the Green Bay Packers. We talked about Kansas City, Pittsburgh again. Pittsburgh. I was surprised to find out that this is the first time that Pittsburgh has been 5-0 since 1978 for a franchise that has the most Super Bowls, well, tied with New England with the most Super Bowls at 6. I would have thought that they would have more years where they start out 4 or 5-0, which makes what Kansas City has done for the last 4 years just that much more remarkable. To have 4 straight years starting out at 4-0, to start a season at 4-0, 4 straight years, which is just insane. But The big thing to come out that Pittsburgh game is I'm not Pittsburgh always beats Cleveland, so you kind of expected that. Not surprised by that, especially at home and anywhere they beat Cleveland anywhere. The benching of Baker Mayfield was I found curious. Listen, I've never been a Baker Mayfield guy. Um, I don't think he's a. I think he's okay. I don't think you can win a Super Bowl with Baker Mayfield. I don't think Baker Mayfield can be a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. I don't think he can lead you to a Super Bowl, but I do think you can make the playoffs with Baker Mayfield. Maybe win a playoff game. Maybe a lot of talent on that team. Um, when you bench a Baker Mayfield, you have to really think about. And again, they're 4-2. Let's keep that in mind. They're 4-2. Case Keenum, where's Case Keenum taking you? Now, Baker Mayfield, this is what year 3 for Mayfield. Again, he's not going to be this superstar quarterback. You can pretty much tell early with quarterbacks who's going to be. There are levels to this at the quarterback position. Pretty much, you can tell whether a guy is going to be a special player, franchise player, or just average. You can tell Mayfield is somewhere between franchise and average. He's somewhere in that middle where he's going to have days where he looks great. He's going to have halves where he looks great. He's going to have halves where you like, damn, should we? Why did we draft this guy? That's who Baker Mayfield is, and I I can see Baker Mayfield being a guy that bounces around 2 or 3 teams. I really can. He'll be a starter, and again, he'll be a starter, but he'll bounce around a lot around this league. With that being said, you're not winning anything with Case Keenum. So to me, I'm 4-2. You're not 2-4. You're not 1-5. You're not 0-6. You're 4-2. Bit of a panic move to me to bench Baker Mayfield, especially against that defense. I mean, Pittsburgh defense is loaded. In Pittsburgh, they have, I mean, all across the board, Pittsburgh had great pass rush, above average secondary, linebacker. I mean, Pittsburgh they had the best defense in the league to me in terms of personnel. When you combine personnel, scheme, continuity, and impact players, all right, that is a big time defense. So anybody can get embarrassed against playing against that defense. Um, but I'm not. I thought it was a bit of a panic move. I really did. Thought it was a bit of a panic move by the Cleveland Browns. As far as Tennessee goes, again, these coaches, Tennessee, Houston, great game. These coaches just continuously just this the 2 point conversion just it ruins coaches. It ruins coaches' decision making. Coaches get caught up in these analytics. They get caught and just make a common sense decision. You know what my rule for 2 point conversions are? You don't go for it until you get to a point to where you have to go for it. And it is definitely situational. So if you got what I'm talking about, Cleveland, not Cleveland, Houston, Tennessee. Houston's up 36-29. Just scored a touchdown, and they decided to go for 2 because if they go for 2 and convert, they will make it. It will be 38-29. In essence, 9 points will basically put the game completely out of reach. But if you don't get it, it stays at 7. The other team the other team scores. You go in overtime and lose. Oh, my bad. That's exactly what happened. they went for it. They missed. Tennessee tied the game, went to overtime, and won in overtime. Um, yeah, yeah. Like I don't get these teams just continuously just outsmarting themselves by going for these 2 point conversions when they don't have to. I don't. I watched it basically cost Carolina a Super Bowl back in '03. People forget about that. That John Fox kept chasing points and could have been ahead. Could have been ahead at the end of the game or at the towards the latter part of the game. In the fourth, I mean late in the fourth quarter. So we've seen this movie before. You just don't chase points in the NFL. You don't. You just and I just don't get it with these coaches. I don't get. I don't get the thinking behind it. It just doesn't make sense to go for 2 points, a 2 point conversion when you don't have to. It really doesn't, and it got Cornell in trouble. It lost them the game without question. A game which they went toe to toe with Tennessee, and a game which they easily could have won. San Francisco, of course, bounces back against the Rams. That was a big time game, big time bounce back win because if we talk about quarterbacks getting benched, Jimmy G needed that performance because he gets benched the week before against Miami. Now, a lot of it, people attributed that to bad ankle. You heard the coach Shanahan not throwing him under the bus, really cover for him. To be honest with you, saying, "Hey, I didn't like what I saw in terms of how he was throwing the ball with the ankle. That wasn't normally him. Didn't make a big deal of it. Comes back in this game at home against a good Ram team that has a excellent defense in their own right, and puts up has an excellent performance. Throws 3 touchdowns, and the San Francisco defense holds the Rams in check. Again, nice bounce back win for San Francisco, who has all types of injuries, and more importantly for Jimmy G, who is playing as each game goes on in this 2020 season. He is playing for his future in San Francisco because he has a very much a team friendly contract, and they can move on from him after this year if they so choose to. Now, I like Jimmy G. I think we've seen him get to a Super Bowl with Jimmy G, but I get a sense that they feel like as a franchise that they got to that they got to Super Bowl in spite of him. That it was more about their defense and offensive line and running game than it was his actual performance. So he has the rest of the season to show them that they can win a championship with him at the helm. Um, so you had that going on with San Francisco. You look at the playoff standings. Of course, Tennessee, Pittsburgh, Seattle remain the only undefeated teams. I'm still not sold on Seattle by any stretch with that defense. I'm not so I have no faith in that defense whatsoever. But they do have the MVP of the league right now in Russell Wilson. Uh, Baltimore's 5-1, but again, it is not a it's kind of a shaky 5-1. I've not been impressed with Baltimore over the past couple of weeks. Even against Cleveland, Lamar Jackson did not throw the ball well. They're having some issues with the passing game, without question, and their defense was not good. Yes, last couple of days, the defense was not good against Philadelphia. I mean, they almost blew basically a 20 point out. Philadelphia scored 22 points in the fourth quarter. So Baltimore, it's great to be 5-1, but got some things that they need to tighten up. We already talked about Green Bay. The Chicago Bears 5-1. I mean, for the Chicago Bears to be 5-1 is just you just shake your head. You like offensively, that team is awful offensively. They are a awful offensive football team. I mean, you look at Chicago's splits, but right now Chicago is in a great position because their only loss came out of the conference. So they are 5-0 in within the conference. Chicago is 5-1, despite the fact of being 5-1. They've only outscored their opponents by 12 points. 12 points. So their point differential is bad for a team that's 5-1, only plus 12. As a comparison, you look at some other teams. Seattle undefeated, point differential 34, even though they played a number of close games. Even Arizona is 50, has a point differential of 54, despite losing 2 games. So, listen, with Chicago, um, I'm not buying it with the quarterback situation. We know how good the defense is. I think Chicago's going to have one of these years where they're going to be around. They may make the playoffs, but I'm not buying Chicago as a contender. It's just not. I just don't see it right now. Again, it is despite the fact that we've gone, this is 6 weeks. We're 6 weeks into the season. I, I look at the landscape right now. I know what Kansas City is. I think I know what Pittsburgh is. Baltimore will make the playoffs, but I'm just something not right about them right now. NFC, I don't know about the NFC right now at all. The NFC is all over the place. I really don't know about the NFC. as far as who to trust. I don't think any team stands out in the AMC right now. And they're a lot. And again, they're gonna be, you have a number of teams that are okay to pretty good to very good. I think the Rams are very good. I don't think they're great. I think Green Bay took a step back to me, even though that they are 4-1. I don't think there's a class of the NFC right now. I think the best teams, the best three teams in football are in the AFC. Kansas City, Pittsburgh, and probably Baltimore. Those are the best three teams in football, and they're all in the AFC to me. So all the power right now is in the AFC. And I can even, if I be honest with you, I can even make a case for Tennessee being the fourth best team in football right now. To be perfectly honest, so they have at least four of the five top teams in the league, um, right now. Of course, the big NFL news for today, as you heard this earlier, was Tagovailoa. I always butcher his name. Tagovailoa will start week 8. They have a bye week coming up, and then they'll play against the Rams in 2 weeks. So they give him extra prep time. And this is a situation where you say, Miami's played well over the past couple of weeks. They've actually played well over the season. Their losses are close losses to good teams. But again, you're not going. This is the Cleveland in reverse, because the quarterback that you were starting is a backup. Ryan Fitzpatrick is a career backup. That's all there is to it. He's a backup quarterback. He's a great backup to have in case your guy gets hurt and you want to put him in the game for 2 or 3 games to kind of keep your season stabilized. He's good for that, but he's not. You're not going anywhere for the now or the future with Ryan Fitzpatrick as your quarterback. So it makes perfect sense to put Tua in right now. To me, I'm a Tua fan. I think he was one of the best college quarterbacks that I've ever seen. Accurate, um, poised, great quarterback mind as far as commanding of an offense. He was phenomenal in college, and it wasn't just a product of the system. He made Alabama when he was there. He was that dominant of a player. There's no question about it. Can he stay on the field? That's the only question. Can he stay on the field? This guy stays on the field, then to me, I look at this quarterback class. He will be the guy over Joe Burrow, over Justin Herbert, who's played well, and despite the fact that the Chargers are the Chargers and remain the Chargers, but Herbert looks to be the guy. Joe Burrow has played well this season, but this is the guy to me that has the biggest upside as far as the 2020 class and as far as the next wave of great quarterbacks. I really got. I'm a Tua fan, and I'm not. It's not like I root for Alabama, so I'm not a homer from that standpoint. The sky's the limit for this guy if he can stay on the field, and that's a big if. That's a big if because if you're injury prone in college, then it doesn't get any easier in the NFL. They hit a lot harder, and there's more games, of course. So I have no problem with them starting him. We'll see how he does. It's a great year to start him, where you have a lot of the divisions kind of open. No dominant team in that division. I mean, we saw New England. New England's all of a sudden struggling. Has a losing record this late in the season for the first time since what, '02. Buffalo's not dominant. They've dropped a couple of games after a 4-0 start. And the Jets are the Jets. So he's coming into an ideal situation. I like Flores as a coach. Thought the team played well at the end of last year. They played hard. There's accountability. There's a culture there that he's already establishing. So again, very intriguing to watch once he over the course of the next um, 10 games for the Miami Dolphins. That will have to be. That's going to be some must see TV watching that guy play quarterback. A couple things. Again, I haven't seen you in a couple weeks. Besides the Wire podcast, I want to wrap up the NBA just a bit. Um, of course, with the Lakers winning it, will the question remains: what will they do in the offseason? Will they go out try to get Chris Paul, a Bradley Beal, somebody like that? They are not going to stand pat. LeBron won't allow that to happen. So they will not stand pat going into next season. But I mean, the biggest question in the NBA besides free agency is when the NBA season is going to start again. And as of right now, no one knows. Not even Adam Silver knows. You're going to have a number of bubble sites in the NBA starting next year, in 2021. I can't see a situation where you have a lot of fans returning to arenas with no vaccine, or at least without a vaccine that people are willing to take. There might be a vaccine, but a lot of people are not going to be taking that vaccine if it comes out before March or before next June or April. Um, so I think the NBA will have to go to a bubble type situation where you might have a bubble in LA, in Dallas, or like four on the East Coast, four on the West Coast, something like that. And you're gonna have to create an infrastructure where it's like forget to think about players staying in hotels. You're gonna have players staying in houses, build houses for the players and things of that nature. You're gonna have to create a home type situation. What the NBA did in Orlando will never be done again. That's just never gonna happen. That's a once in a lifetime type thing. They did a wonderful job. It's one of the great accomplishments by any sports league ever, as far as I'm concerned. No one thought they were going to pull it off. I didn't think they were going to pull off. No positive COVID tests. So hats off to Adam Silver and the NBA for pulling that off. For pulling that off over the course of 3.5 months, and because I did not think a champion was going to be crowned, I really didn't at all. Um, but they're going to have to get extremely creative in order to start their 2021 season. We're going to get very creative. Again, knowing the NBA, they were have been planning for this even throughout the course of this summer. And whatever plan they come up with, you're gonna buy because of the people who are running it. But it'll be fascinating to watch what they do, how they're gonna start off their season. You've heard the NHL wants to start in January, and we'll see how that goes. And again, we saw the NHL pull off some bubbles, pull off similar situation. Well, pull off. They had their own form of bubbles, in terms of players and things of that nature. Baseball actually has done a pretty good job of it. To be honest with you, you had some. It was shaky during the season, but throughout the course of the playoffs and into the World Series, the World Series will begin tonight. Um, the COVID test has been, COVID positive tests have been quiet for the most part. Really, the only sport, I mean, football, shocker, has had the most trouble. Football and NFL and college football have had the most trouble by far, and that's what you should have expected. So what we should have expected out of all the sports. And Major League Soccer struggled too earlier on when they were down in Florida. But I just be very fascinated to see what the NBA does to start their 2021 season. Bucks, the Bucks, put a maybe basically double down on the fact that they're not going to trade Giannis, um, despite and they're going to risk losing him if he doesn't. And he's not expected to take the contract extension. Everybody knows he's not going to sign the max extension. That he's going to become an outright free agent in 2021. Um, and by the way, it's the right move. I mean, if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, you should have confidence in your franchise that you can put together a team that can compete next year, whenever the NBA season starts, for a championship. You go all in on this season. You do whatever it takes. You sign whoever, make whatever trade is necessary. Everybody on that team, with the exception of Giannis, would be up is tradable. Period. So if you can't, I mean, you know, if you cannot put a contending team around a generational talent when you've already been to the Eastern Conference Finals, then you don't deserve them. You've had 7 years with them. You've had plenty of time to put a contender around that guy. And Cleveland had plenty of time to do that. To do the same thing with LeBron. New Orleans had plenty of time with Anthony Davis. You can't knock these players for wanting to win championships and wanting to not face a criticism of being great but never win the big one because their organizations have done poor jobs of surrounding them with adequate talent or with talent that can get them to help them get to the next level as a franchise. So it seems like, and again, you're gonna hear all types of free agent rumors. It seems like to me the ideal place would be Miami, but a lot can happen between now and 2021. Of course, the majority of it is going to depend on how this season goes. But here's the thing: if Milwaukee's not in the finals in 2021, the Greek Freak is gone. It's just that simple. If they're not in the finals next year, it's a wrap. So then you will get a. But there are a number of teams, Dallas. You can see Golden State. There are a number of teams that are going to try. They're going to position themselves to get this guy. He is a generational talent. He's an MVP. He's an MVP, and he won't be 20. He won't be 26 until December. And this is the guy that can shift the power of the NBA, depending on where he ends up. So I don't blame Milwaukee for not. Uh, I can't blame Milwaukee for not trading him. And by the way, no one's giving up the farm to get Giannis when they know he's going to be a free agent the following season. Like it's just not when they know he's not going to sign an extension for the team that he gets traded to. If he got traded tomorrow, he wouldn't sign an extension with that team. Um, so even if they won a championship, he wouldn't sign the extension. He's going to wait to become an outright free agent so he can get the most money. Period. So period. So he can get the most money. So I think that I want to see Milwaukee. The ball's in their court. Um, and again, the hardest part is when you have a player, you get a player like Giannis, and you get a player like LeBron, Anthony Davis. That's the hard part, getting that guy. The easiest part to me is building around them. The hard part is having the generational talent. So the hard work is actually done. So to me, it's easy to build around that particular player. Now, Mike Budenholzer the right coach? I would lean to probably saying no. But who else out there? Who do you think would sign could take that team to the next level? Who's out there? Like what other coaches out there? It's not Mike D'Antoni. Jeff Van Gundy, I would like Jeff Van Gundy, but it seems like he's headed to Houston. I wouldn't touch Stan Van Gundy. I don't see why anybody would be interested in Stan Van Gundy. To be honest with you, so I this is gonna be It's gonna be very similar to the LeBron situation with Giannis. Back-to-back MVP years. Had a situation where they go from conference final losing to the conference finals to losing to the conference semifinals. Get fed up and probably head to Miami. So around the same age, same trajectory, same parts of their careers. So now Giannis is not as good as LeBron, but not that far off. He's really not. He's not that far off. He's not like I would like. I've heard some people say, "Well, he'll never be LeBron." Slow down, slow down. Maybe not in terms of style of play, but in terms of I, listen, slow down. That guy, that guy's a generational talent. That guy, I would not be surprised if that guy wins 3 or 4 championships before it's said and done. I would not be the least bit surprised. He's that big. He's that special of a player, and he has that kind of drive. So, just with the right situation, adds to his game as far as his post game. Forget about mid range jump shot, but even just as far as him, just his ball handling, things of that nature. You know, he's already a great defensive player. He's already a guy that can score the basketball. I mean, he's getting 30 points a game without having really a consistent jump shot or a great handle. He has pretty good handle, but not a great handle over the basketball. So I don't be surprised if he adds that to his game. He averaged 35 and 15. He's that type of player. I wanted to get to a couple of things. But first of all, before I get to some pop culture here, um, the Lopez Lemeshko fight was one of the best fights I've seen. It was really one of the best. It was definitely the best fight I've seen this year. I mean, certainly we haven't seen a lot of them, but great fight. But unfortunately, boxing has to fuck it up with just corruption and manipulating the judges. There's no way. It was embarrassing for the sport. The judges' scores in that fight. That fight was a 115, 113, maybe you want to say 116, 112 at most. That was a closely contested fight. The last 5 out of the last 6 rounds, Lemeshko dominated outside the last round. Dominated. Now, you want to say he waited too late to start attacking? Okay. And it probably cost him two, it cost him probably at least 2 rounds, maybe more. But some of those scores, I mean, 109, 119, 109, 117, 111. You would have thought if you had watched those, if you would have saw those scores and not watched the fight, you would have thought that you would have thought that it was a straight beat down. It was not even close to being that. I mean, you thought it was just a pure ass whipping. It was not even. He hurt Lopez a couple of times in that fight. And there were points in that fight where Lopez got tired, and Lopez is almost 10 years younger. So again, boxing just embarrasses itself with just they have no structure. You can't trust anything about boxing. And I told my cousin before, after the fight, it's just like a Triple G Canelo situation. I thought Triple G won both fights against Canelo, by the way. But Triple G is much older than Canelo. They don't want the champion to be that old, or for that matter, to have any problem issues in terms of speaking English. So Lemeshko, not is not really doesn't have a big personality like that. So it needed the Triple G. So Alvarez and Lopez, the younger fighters, the more charismatic fighters, those are the guys that they want. They want that they want to carry the sport into the future. You see, despite some of the financial issues that Canelo's had with Danza, we recently got $300 million contract at the zone, but it's not fight. You don't. It's not gonna. They don't want to market somebody like Lemeshko, his style of fighting, and again 32. He's not old, but still 32 versus a 23-year-old. Lopez is going. Lopez is now the undisputed lightweight champion, 4 belts, and he is the future of boxing. Period. At 23, he's a star. He's a very talented fighter, and he won the fight. I think he won the fight, but not easily. It was a very close fight. It was a very close fight, highly competitive. Uh, I thought Lopez fought a great tactical fight for a guy as athletic and as young as he is. I thought he fought an excellent tactical fight. I really was impressed from that standpoint, and certainly the sky's the limit for him as far as how talented he has. He has a talent to be an all-time great if he stays hungry, and of course if he continues to get better, continues to improve. But he's a star now. I mean, he's an undisputed champion. The other guy that I saw on that undercard, relatively was a weak undercard. There was one good fight. The fight before the main fight was a great fight. and I forgot the name of the dudes, but that was a great fight. That fight before before the Lopez fight. But Edgar Berlanga, this guy, um, scary. He's scary. This guy is scary. I mean, 6'1", solid muscle, and he has 15 knockouts. I really want to see him fight. He's in that Canelo weight class, like, and none of those guys. If I were a Canelo, I wouldn't want to see that guy right now. Let's make some more money first before we even think about fighting that guy. That guy has the ability to be a middleweight, super middleweight, and light heavyweight type champion. He can go from 160 to 175 easily as he continues to just physically develop and add. He can add weight if he wants to, and he definitely can move up. That guy is scary. That guy is scary. I want to see him fight. Love to see him fight um, somebody of note in that 160 in that division. But that to me jumped out. The Lopez Lomachenko fight was great, but Edgar Berlanga is going to be the star. Is going to be a star. There's no question. Strength, just how he carries himself. He kind of reminds me of young Mike Tyson. Now, I ain't talking about from a style standpoint, but from just body language and just that swag, that mindset. He really does. He reminds me of like a young Mike Tyson. Of course, tonight you have Game Seven. Oh, excuse me, Game One of the World Series. Tampa Bay and the Dodgers, Los Angeles Dodgers. Dodgers just won a Game Seven Sunday against the Atlanta Braves, and with the Dodgers, I was thinking about this today. It's probably more pressure on the Dodgers to win this series than there has been on a team to win in baseball, going back to the 2004 Red Sox. I think this is the most pressurized series that any baseball team has had in a long time. Normally, you get to the World Series, you can kind of like be free. The hard part is done, especially this year where you have to get through 3 rounds with the the 2 out of 3, and then the divisional, and then the wild card, then the divisional wild card, and then LCS. Um, so I think that this year, um, I think the Dodgers have more pressure on them. Like, they have to win it this year. Like, they have to win this series. And to me, this is probably their best chance. All due respect to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is a very good team, excellent pitching, some young stars on offense. But 2017, Houston was a powerhouse. 2018, the Red Sox team that they faced was a powerhouse. Those Neither one of those two teams were as good as both those teams were better than what Tampa Bay is this year. So I think that if the Dodgers can't get it done this year, then I don't know when it's going to happen. Coming back from 3 games to 1 against Atlanta, but to me, the key is Game One. Kershaw has to give them 2 quality starts in this series. I'm not even saying he has to win both games, but he has to give them an opportunity to win both of his starts. He cannot go out there and get bombed and shelled in one of these starts. I just don't think they can win it without him pitching, without him pitching good, not great, but just being good, just being six innings, 3 runs. You know, if he gives 2 starts like that, give them a chance to win, then I think that's to me that's their only way to win this series. I don't think he can go out there and pitch like he did in his last start and have them expect to win this series. Tampa Bay is too talented. They have too much pitching and they have too much pitching, and Tampa Bay is not fearful of anybody. Tampa Bay has been battling the Yankees and Red Sox for years. Um, you know, just took out Houston, and give Houston a lot of credit for coming back from 3 games to nothing and getting into a Game 7. They deserve a bunch of credit for that. Almost doing the impossible and coming back from a 3-0 deficit, 3 games to nothing deficit. But Dodgers got to win it this year. They have to win it this year. They don't win this year. I don't know when it's if it's going to happen, if it's ever going to happen. I wanted to wrap up the program with a bit of pop culture. A couple things. Number one, you know, in regards to Steph Curry comes out, Aisha Curry comes out, she dyes her hair. Well, whoop de doo. But Steph Curry responds to internet trolls on Twitter, who apparently said some disrespectful things about Aisha Curry's look and her dyeing her hair, which I get when you put yourself when you put yourself out there on the internet, you post pictures, you are open season. Um, and again, I don't get the ideal that you are seeking, you know, opinions from people who you don't know, and frankly, don't for the most. Let's say, be honest. Maybe I'm being a little harsh with this. Frankly, don't give a shit about. Now you may say, all right, we love our fans and cool and like interaction, but eh, these are people on the internet that you probably will never meet in your life. That's not going unless you know the person, unless you know some of the people on Twitter already who compliment you, or know people on Instagram compliment each other that they know all the time. But I'm saying for the most part, the people who you come across on social media you don't know, and they don't know you. They know who you are, but they don't know you as a person. And really, social media exposes the insecurities of celebrities and just people in general. It really does, with some of the back and forth that happens over social media, over what a person's wearing, how a person's look, and so on and so on. And Steph Curry didn't get too in his feelings with it, but it says, "Hey, you look good." I don't care. Anybody says something to that nature. It's like, man, why you gotta give it that? Why are you giving the internet that type of energy? You're never gonna win a battle versus the internet. It's just the internet is undefeated with a million knockouts. You just never you can't you're just not gonna win that battle at all. Like I don't you know you don't need to tell your wife that she looks beautiful through Twitter. Like it's just not I just don't see it to be necessary. You don't have to justify your wife's changing her hair color via Twitter or Instagram or over any type of social media. And again, I'm just amazed time in, time out, how celebrities go for the same okey doke with the internet trolls. The internet trolls are undefeated and remain undefeated. And remain undefeated. Like I posted a picture. I rarely post pictures on social media. Rarely of myself. I posted a picture of myself after the Lakers won. The Laker had that picture, and actually somebody complimented me on that picture, and it was a nice compliment. It was a very nice compliment. But for that compliment, for those compliments that you receive, it can definitely go the other way. It can definitely it can go the other way just as easy. So you don't feed into it. I mean, you don't look for justification from Twitter or social media. You just can't. You can't do it. You can't do it, and just keep your wits about you. I just don't. You know, I don't get why celebrities, or why anybody feeds into this. But again, the internet it can expose some things about people within. It really does. It's surprising to say that, but it can. I want to end with Lovecraft Country, um, because I watched the episode twice, and it it is one of the I've never seen a show do what they did over the course of 10 episodes ever in the history of television. The combination of like black history with magic with kind of science fiction and horror, and the mix was again it to try to pull that off is almost it's almost impossible to pull that off. It really is. Like it's almost impossible to pull that off, and they pulled it off probably flawlessly. To be honest with you, I mean, for the first part of the season, had trouble following everything that was going on. But as I would say, the last four episodes pretty much got a sense of what was happening, and they found a rhythm. It was a nice rhythm of letting you know what was happening. And the bottom line is that has a novelic type of feel to it. You're not gonna know everything that you're not gonna understand or know everything that's going on. There's so much layers to a program that's happening. Is such a piece of a masterpiece of art. You're gonna have to rewatch that a number of times to dissect everything that's happening because it's so much. There's a lot to digest in 60 minutes of television. But what they, to me, what I gauge as next level television, not just entertainment or guilty pleasure, but as next level is the wires of the world. This one reaches rare air. When you watch a show and feel like you need to do research outside of watching the show about a particular episode or about a particular subject matter, that's taken it to a whole nother level. And that's a level that very few television shows in the history of television ever reach, if they reach it at all. And I don't. I was thinking about season two. I don't know if they can even do a season two. I mean, if you watch the end of the episode, there are some things that could lead that we can writers can do any writers can create anything as far as plots and things of that nature and character development. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was a season two. It will win a number of awards, Emmy, Golden Globes, and without question, Screen Actor Guild Awards. It will win a number of awards. It's going to clean up. It's going to clean house. And Jonathan Majors absolutely should be like nominated for Best Actor, Golden Globe, television. His performance was just really. I mean, the entire cast was strong. It was a great cast, to say the least. But I think you just watch something. If you watch the show, you just watch, and I won't even say how it ended. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, even 2 days later. But you watched a historic show. Once they got from the last five episodes, they were in their bag. They were cooking their last five episodes to at a level very few shows have ever hit in television history. To be honest with you, and I'm saying that like this again, I'll probably I'll go and rewatch the entire season soon enough. But I strongly would encourage to watch that show. To encourage you to watch that show, and don't pay attention to what critics say. Critics don't know. Critics don't know shit. As far as I'm concerned, I don't listen to critics other than to get a laugh or two. But as a critic, you're not going to tell me what I like to watch and why I should or shouldn't watch a show. Critics have not aged well. That has not aged well whatsoever. Critics don't. I don't pay attention to critics about art. I know what I like. I know what I like to, and I know what I don't like. It's pretty much that simple. That's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Real Deal podcast. As always, subscribe to my podcast on this YouTube channel. Click the subscribe button after the episode is concluded, or even before the episode is concluded. You can find me on iTunes, Stitcher, or at anywhere you can find find a podcast. There's so many platforms you lose track, but definitely iTunes, Stitcher, Blog Talk Radio, YouTube. Have a great rest of the evening. I'm out.